Hey everyone, in the VC, it's Matt, and I'm making a contest entry for Ben Simpson, who is having his 500 subscribers contest. And if you haven't run across his channel or his videos, be sure to check him out, Ben Simpson, that is. And his contest sounded pretty easy at first, but turned out to be a little trickier than I thought. He wants you to name your top 5 albums, take a group or a person, name your top 5 albums by that group or person, and then name your top 5 songs. And I thought, well, that's easy enough. I'll do a contest entry for that. And the deadline for it is the 16th of this month of December. And he announced the contest sometime last month, I thought. And I thought, well, I'll get that out of the way. It'd be pretty easy. But then I thought, well, hold on a second. My first thought was the Beatles. And I figured a bunch of people probably are going to do the Beatles, so I don't want to do that because, he'll get 10 Beatle entries. Same thing, I didn't want to do the Rolling Stones. I thought everyone would probably expect me to do the Kinks or somebody like that. I didn't want to do them, didn't want to do the Beach Boys. So I was thinking, well, who could I do? And thought of several people. Almost did Bruce Springsteen, but I'm missing a couple of his albums. So wouldn't have anything to show but 2 or 3 of the albums. But I settled on a band that's a band I like. They're not really one of my favorite bands, but I like them all right. They just came to mind. The Velvet Underground. I figured they don't really get talked about very much here on the VC, so I thought I would pick and go with them. Problem is, and this is kind of a cheat, so Ben, if this doesn't qualify, just my entry will be here, but take me out of the contest drawing. That's fine, because they really only have 4 albums. They do have a 5th album called Squeeze, which I don't really count and I've never heard because that was released after Lou Reed had left the band and after most of the original members had left the band. I think there might be like 1 original member on that album, which I've heard is actually not a terrible album. It's just not the Velvet Underground. It's the Velvet Underground in name only. So I don't have that and never heard it, so I'm not going to count that. And other than the 4 studio albums, they have several live albums, and then they have a couple of albums that came out in, I think, in the 80s. They're just sort of odds and ends, but I'm not going to count any of those. I'm just going to go with their 4 live albums. So that was easy to pick 5 when you only have 4 to go with. And I have all of their albums on CD only, with the exception of 1 album. So I bought this box set, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. It's got all their studio albums in it, and then it's got an extra disc of some extras, and there's some extra tracks appended onto their original CDs there also, so you get a lot of extra stuff. Band that's highly rated by many, maybe a little overrated. I like them. They've got some great songs, but anyway, I just thought it'd be interesting to do somebody a little different. So, in order of their albums, and the albums in the CD box here look like that, which is not the original album art. So I'm going to show the back, which does have the original album art. So coming in at number 4 would be their 2nd album, White Light, White Heat, which I've never been that crazy about, though it does have a few good tracks on it. It's good. It's just, a lot of people really love that album, but it's not for me. So then the number 3, and these other 3 I really like a lot. Number 3 spot would be their last album, if you don't count Squeeze, The Velvet Underground Loaded, which is a great kind of just rock. This is where they try to make a hit album. Didn't really succeed chart-wise, but great kind of a pop and rock album. And I do have that on vinyl because I picked it up at Record Store Day a few years ago, which is nice to have. I don't know if you can see that with the glare or not. And I'll show you this too, just because it's kind of neat. I've shown this before, but the vinyl is kind of a purple-white splatter vinyl thing. Looks pretty neat. So yeah, Loaded would be number 3. Number 2, and this is the one that everyone considers the masterpiece, but this is their first album, The Velvet Underground with Andy Warhol, or Andy Warhol Presents The Velvet Underground. And it's a great album. Came out in 1967. But my favorite is their third album, which is simply called The Velvet Underground. And there's the cover of that that you can see on the back of the CD. And that's not the actual cover. So that's my Velvet Underground in order of preference on their albums, their songs, and it's hard to pick my 5 favorite because there are quite a few really good songs, and then some of their stuff not that crazy about. But so I'm go from 5 to 1. Number 5 is a song called Rock and Roll, which is on Loaded. And there's really not a bad song on this album. This was from 1970, and this is the album with Sweet Jane. That's the one Velvet Underground song that most people know. So Rock and Roll is also a great song off of that album. Number 2 is I'm Waiting for the Man, which comes off their first album. I'm sorry, not number 2. Number 4, I picked I'm Waiting for the Man, which sounds suspiciously like Hitchhike by Marvin Gaye, which is probably the better of the 2 songs. But I'm Waiting for the Man's a great song too. A lot of great stuff on this album. This is the album that Nico is on, and even though she wasn't really a part of the band, she was, I guess, part of the band for the first album, and then wasn't around after that. There's a lot of great songs on here that are kind of ruined by her singing, like Femme Fatale is a great song, and I'll Be Your Mirror, but the bad thing is the girl just can't sing. She sounds like a foghorn, and it's a shame that someone else in the band didn't sing those songs. They would have been a lot better. They're still great, but anyway, so yeah, number 4 was that. Number 3 is a song called What Goes On, which is on the Velvet Underground self-titled album from 1969. Just a great tune, just a great pounding rock and roll song. It's just a great thing. You just look it up on YouTube and check it out. It's a really great song. Number 2 is also from the same album, and it's called Candy Says. Just has very ethereal, heavenly, beautiful vocals, and a great kind of sleepy pop song. And number 1 is the first song on their first album, Sunday Morning. I don't know why I'm holding these up, but I guess you can read what's on the album if you want to. So Sunday Morning is just a great opener to that album. And there you go. I hope that works for you, Ben. Like I said, if using 4 albums instead of 5 doesn't work, just knock me out of the contest. I just didn't want to do Beatles and Rolling Stones and Kinks and stuff that I'm figuring a lot of other people are going to do. I just thought it'd be fun to do something different. And I'm missing a couple of Springsteen albums that I used to have, or probably would have gone with him. But I hope that works, and good luck on your contest. Good luck on more subscriptions. Ben Simpson's got a great channel, great videos. Check him out, and we'll talk to you all later.